Hi traders, and welcome to the final video in my AutoView lesson series. In today's video, I'm going to show you the final piece of the puzzle, and that is setting up a virtual private server to run AutoView 24/7 for those of you who can't do that at home. So strap in, there's a lot of information to cover today. Let's get started. So before we begin, we should probably cover an overview of what AWS is and what we plan to do today. So first of all, what is AWS for those of you who are not familiar with this? AWS stands for Amazon Web Services, which is a cloud computer hosting service, which basically means you can rent someone else's computer and access it remotely and then use it for whatever purposes you want. The advantage of using AWS is that it's reliable, scalable, and inexpensive, or in our case today, completely free. So we're basically renting a computer from Amazon, and it's free for the first year. Now the computer we plan to rent today is extremely cheap, so it's going to be slow to use, but it is definitely going to be able to handle what we plan to do. And what we're going to do today is we're going to rent this server, set it up, log into it, install Chrome on it, and then add the AutoView extension to that Chrome browser. And then we connect AutoView to TradingView, like I showed you at the beginning of this series. All the steps are the same. And then once we have AutoView connected to TradingView and Oanda, all we need to do is set up our alerts, and the virtual server will run 24/7 and execute our trade orders for us. So why are we doing it this way? Well, this computer will run 24/7 remotely, so you don't leave it running in your house, which obviously saves on your power bill and is just one less thing in your house that you have to leave running. There's minimal setup time involved in using AWS, so that is the reason why I chose AWS. And it's completely free to use within reason. So on the free tier limit for the first 12 months, you get a quota of hard drive space and network bandwidth. So basically internet data. And for our purposes of running AutoView, we are never going to be at risk of exceeding those limits. Now, if you go off and do other things with this server, then it's possible that you could exceed the limits. But if you follow all the steps in this video, it shouldn't cost you a thing for the first 12 months. And if you do decide you want to continue using the service past 12 months, it's pretty cheap to rent. I think it's around 1 cent per hour, or around $100 a year to rent this same computer we're using today. So that's a quick rundown of what to expect from today's video. Let's get into the lesson. Alright, so the first thing we need to do is go to aws.amazon.com. This will be the page you land on as of recording this video. This may change in the future, but the steps should remain pretty similar even if they change the website. So the first thing we need to do is come up here to the top right button and create an AWS account. Click on that. And remember, this is completely free. So click on create a new AWS account. Put in your email address, password, AWS account name. So this is just a screen name for your AWS account. You can change this later. So it's not really important what you put in here, but I'm going to fill this out and click continue. Now you have to fill out your contact information and tell AWS what you're using this for. For the most part, you can just tick personal. Since we're retail traders, this is just a side thing for us, but I don't think it really matters what you click here. Then I'm going to fill out my full name, my phone number and country code, my region, and my address. Then make sure to agree to their terms, read them if you want to, and then click continue. Now we need to enter our billing information, but don't worry, Amazon will not charge you for usage below the AWS free tier limits, but they do temporarily hold $1 or euro as a pending transaction for 3 to 5 days just to verify your identity and that you own this actual credit card or debit card. So I'm going to fill this information out and then click continue. All right, so after putting in my credit card information, I had to put in my phone number as well to get an AWS verification code. So once you've done that step, you'll land on this page here where we need to sign up for Amazon Web Services. Now we definitely do not need this option, and certainly not this option either. We just want a virtual server to run Chrome, a web browser in, or MetaTrader if that is how you automate your trading. What we're doing today can apply to any application you need to run 24/7 on a remote computer. So we want to select this option here, the basic free option. So this option is selected by default. So we just need to click this button, complete sign up, and we're done setting up our AWS account. So now we can click this button button here to go to the Amazon Web Services Management console. So to log in, we want to select root user, and then we put in the email we signed up with. Click next, and then type out this little anti-robot captcha thing. Click submit, and then type in your password and click sign in. And now here we are in the AWS Management console. Now we're ready to launch our very first virtual machine. So we want this option here, launch a virtual machine with EC2. So click on this link here and we're in. Now we have a lot of options here. We've got Linux, Mac OS, Ubuntu, Microsoft. Theoretically, you should be able to use most of these operating systems to do what we're doing today. If you're more familiar with Mac OS, for example, you might want to choose that. But for today, I'm going to be using a Microsoft Windows virtual server. Just make sure that whichever option you select is a free tier eligible option. So in my case, I'm going to scroll down until I get to Windows Server 2019 Base, and I want to select this option. So click select over here. And now we have a lot of configurations to choose from. So by default, the free tier is selected here, and that will do fine for us today. We have 1 gig of RAM, 1 virtual CPU, and we only have low network performance, which should be fine for our purposes. So this will not be a fast computer by any stretch of the imagination, but it should do what we need it to. So now we come down to this button down here and click review and launch. Now we don't need to change any of these settings here. We can just come all the way down to this bottom right button, launch, and click on that. Now this is important. We need our private key in order to access our server remotely. So it's important that you set this up properly. Otherwise you won't be able to connect to the server. So we want to click on this first drop-down box here and select create a new key pair. And then we need to give this key pair a name. You can name this whatever you want, it doesn't really matter. I'm going to call mine the Art of Trading Key. Now we need to click download key pair, which is this button here. So click on that and then select where you want to download this. It doesn't matter where you download it as long as you remember where it is so that we can access it later. I'm just going to click save here. And now the file has downloaded, the PEM file it's called. So make sure you save this somewhere safe because we will need this to connect to the server. If you lose it, you'll need to restart this whole process, which is no big deal because we're not putting anything particularly valuable on this server. But I would recommend putting this somewhere safe and backing it up onto a USB or hard drive, external hard drive, if you can, or even just upload it to a Google Drive. So once you've securely saved this file somewhere that you'll remember where it is, we need to click this button here, launch instances. Wait for AWS to do its thing. And there we go. Our instances are now launching. We have to wait a few minutes, and within a few minutes, we'll be able to log in and access our remote computer and start setting up AutoView over there. So now if you click on this string of numbers here, which is a link, it'll take you to the interface where you can see how your instance is doing. So after a few minutes of waiting, your instance state should be green and running, and your status check should be green and all the checks should have passed. If they haven't yet, just wait a little longer. Now everything is up and running, we can right click on the instance and click this connect button or link. That will take us to this page here. So what we want to do here is click on RDP client. And now we want to download our remote desktop file. So click on this and save it somewhere safe. I'm going to save it to where I saved my private key file, my PEM file. I'm not going to change the file name. I'm just going to click save. So now I have my remote desktop file saved. I need to click on get password so that we can actually log into this server. So click on get password. Now we need to upload your private key pair, or the PEM file. So click browse and navigate to where you saved your file. Here's mine. I'm going to click open. So now I can click decrypt password, and here is my password. So let me copy this text and go to where my RDP file saved. So I can just click show in folder here, bring that over. All I need to do now is double click on this file, click connect. You can ignore all of this. You can even click don't ask me again for connections to this computer, since we know this computer is safe. We own it essentially, or we're renting it from Amazon. So click connect. It'll ask you for a password. I'm just going to paste in the text from this page. I'm going to click remember me, and I'm going to click OK. Again, we don't need to worry about this warning here. We can click don't ask me again for connections to this computer and click yes. Be patient while it connects. And in a moment, we should get an interface that we can start playing around with. So here we are. We're on a private server hosted over in America, 2:30 a.m. over there. And this server is running on Amazon's hardware. So if this pops up for you, I would just click no. We don't need to worry about that. And here we are, we're good to go. Pretty exciting stuff. So the next thing we need to do is install Chrome, since Chrome is the only web browser that allows the auto view extension. The problem with this is that Internet Explorer, for some reason, blocks nearly every website that you go to on this Windows server. I'm not sure why, and I don't know how to fix it. So it's a little bit inconvenient, but what we need to do in order to install Chrome is download the installer onto our home computer and then copy that onto our web server and then just run the installer here. So to do that, I'm just going to minimize this virtual server, and then I'm just going to click up here and type in Google Chrome download. Hit enter. Then I'm going to click on this download now link. It doesn't really matter if you leave this on or off, but I'm just going to turn it off today because the less data our virtual server sends out, the better, since we're on the free tier and it will be a slow computer. So let's click on download Chrome. Now, if your download doesn't start, like mine just didn't, just click on this little link here and that should start the download. Click save. Once that's done, I can bring up my AWS folder, click on Chrome setup, right click it and hit copy or Control C. Then we need to bring back up our virtual server here, our remote desktop connection, and we can right click on the desktop here and just click paste. Wait for the file to copy over. It needs to upload to the server and then the server needs to download it, which will take a minute. But once it's done, we can now double click on this file and begin the installation process. Just wait for the installer to finish doing what it needs to do, and then we can move on to the next step, which is installing AutoView. All right, so Chrome has successfully installed onto our web server. I can now move this window to the side and delete our installer off the desktop because we no longer need it. So the first thing we should do is go to the tradingview.com website. Now this will be very slow because we are on the free tier, so don't be surprised if this takes a little while. Now that we're on the TradingView website, I'm going to log in to my account. Make sure you log into your account. You may need to upgrade your plan if you're on a free plan or a low tier plan, because unless you're just going to leave one account signed in on this virtual server, if you want to use your home account at the same time as the web server account is signed in, you may need to upgrade your plan because that does count as 2 sessions. And TradingView does have limitations on how many charts you can have open on multiple computers. So I'm going to click sign in, and now just sign in with your username or email. I'm going to sign in with my username. Make sure to click remember me. We want to stay signed in on this server, and then click sign in. You may also want to click save up here to save the password in Chrome so that if you do happen to log out, it's easier to log back in. So I'm going to maximize this window here, and let's load up a market and make sure that this server can handle TradingView's charts, because quite frankly, this is the first time I'm doing this and I'm not even sure if the computer can handle this, but I'm hoping it can so that this entire video isn't a waste of time. So I'm going to click on Euro Dollar and see what happens. So now we need to click on full featured chart and I can close this tab. And here we go. It seems to be working fine. So now if you want to, you can log into your Oanda trading account here, but that's completely optional. Remember that AutoView runs through TradingView's alerts, so we really only need to be logged into TradingView. We don't need to log into our trading account because AutoView connects to our trading account for us, and then when our alerts are triggered in TradingView, AutoView relays that information to Oanda on our behalf, so we don't need to log into our account here. So I'm just going to close this window and move on. So now that we have this working, the next step is to install AutoView. So let's open up a new tab here, and I'm just going to Google AutoView. And this first link here should be the one we want. This is the Chrome Web Store extension. I'm just going to click on this first link. Now here is the AutoView extension, browser extension. All we need to do now is click on Add to Chrome. Click on that, click Add Extension, and we're done. AutoView has been added to Chrome. So we can close this browser tab now, go back to TradingView. Now remember, because this is a new setup, it's essentially a new computer, we need to log into AutoView and reconfigure everything. So I'm going to pin AutoView to my extension list and then click on the AutoView icon. Now, because AutoView needs to authenticate that you have access to it, especially if you're a paying user, we need to connect our Chrome account. So click on this Chrome account link and then click on sign in up here. Now you need to sign in to whichever account you've bought AutoView under, or whichever account you want to use the free demo services of AutoView with. Now you may have to go through the two-factor authentication if you've turned that on in your account, since we are logging into a server in another country or potentially another state if you do live in the US. That will trigger Google's security flags. Now the next step we need to do is turn on sync. We need to sync our extensions and profile on Google Chrome. And now to turn on sync, all we need to do is click on our profile icon up here in the top right, the top one, not the bottom one here. And then we need to click on turn on sync. Click on this button here. And now just click yes, I'm in. Now give Google Chrome a few moments to sync all of your bookmarks and extensions. This could take up to a minute or two, depending on how much information or data you need to sync. And it looks like everything is done. So now if I click on AutoView, our Chrome account should be connected. There we go, enabled. And our TradingView account is connected as well. If yours does not say connected, your TradingView section here, make sure to just click on the link and then log into your TradingView account, and that should connect AutoView to TradingView. So we're good to go. Now we just need to set up our Oanda API keys and enable Oanda under the exchanges list, and we should be good to start automating our trading. So let me click on change settings here. Close this tab, we no longer need that. So the next thing we need to do is come to the permissions tab over here on the left. So click on permissions, and then we need to scroll down to whichever exchange you want to use this plugin with. I'm using it with Oanda today, so I'm going to click on Oanda. And today I want to connect Oanda Practice. So I'm going to come over to the right here and click on the switch corresponding to Oanda Practice. That turns it on. And now we need to click allow. And then we need to click the switch again for some reason. Now for some reason mine is not working right now. I'm going to try exiting Chrome and then reopening everything. So let me click the X button, wait for a moment, and then double click on the Chrome shortcut. I want to set Chrome as my default browser, so I'm going to click on that little pop-up there. Going to wait for this page to load. This computer is painfully slow, but you get what you pay for, and it is free. All right, now we need to click on web browser here. Well, I'm going to click on web browser and choose Chrome as my default web browser. And then we can close this window, come back up to AutoView and click on change settings. I'm going to go back to permissions, scroll down to Oanda, and it's now turned on. I'm not sure why it wasn't before, but it is now. Now let's come back over here to Oanda Practice and scroll up. So now if you remember from the previous videos where we configured AutoView on our home computers, we need to do the same thing here. So we need to click on add account. And this is the same for Oanda Practice and Oanda Live, or your real money account. You need to enter your account ID and your account API token. Now, if you're not sure what these are, I'll have a link popping up in the top right hand corner here that will take you to that video where we configured AutoView for the first time. All of the steps are the same there. It's just that we're doing this on a remote computer. To save time, I'm not going to go over that again in this video. I happen to have my account ID and account token or access token written down in a file. So I'm just going to copy and paste them over into these two text boxes here. So I'm going to copy over my first account ID and then my Oanda demo API key. Remember, the demo API key or access token and your live money token are two different tokens. So make sure you copy the right one over. I'm going to paste that access token in there and click test account. So my credentials were successfully tested. I can now click add account, and we have now connected AutoView to TradingView and connected our Oanda account to AutoView. So we are now set up for automated trading. All we need to do now is set up our script alerts. And remember, we're logged into our main TradingView account, so you could do that on your home computer if you want to, because your alerts will trigger on any browser you have open, whether that be a second computer at home or this virtual server right here. But before we do that, I'm going to do one last step to ensure that our server is always auto trading our alerts. Now, there's one final thing I'd like to do before we consider this virtual server setup completely. It's not a common occurrence, but sometimes the Chrome browser can crash or your server could restart for an update or something like that. If that happens, then obviously our AutoView plugin is not going to be able to detect our trades, and our entire operation is basically going to stop. So there's a few ways to achieve a solution for this. I'm going to show you my personal favorite way, and that is to create a batch file that constantly checks to see if Chrome is running. And if it's not, it opens it back up. And if it is running, it just waits 60 seconds and checks again. This batch file Windows startup, so as soon as you boot up your server, it will begin monitoring your Chrome browser and ensure that it is always running so long as your server is on. So we need to do a little bit of batch file programming for this one. If you've never done this before, it shouldn't be anything more difficult than writing out Pine code. So let's jump into it. All right, so to create this batch file monitor script, come down and click on the Windows Start button and just type in Notepad. Once this loads up, click on Notepad, launch the program. And now we're going to write a short batch file script, which is going to constantly monitor our Chrome process, make sure it's running on this server. And if it's not running, we're going to launch it. So the first thing I'm going to type here is @echo off. Now you don't need to know what all these commands are, just copy me note for note. I'll leave a link in the video description to a text file, so you can just copy and paste this code if you want to. This is not in any way related to PineScript, so if you don't understand what's happening here, it's not important. But what we need to write here is :check. We're writing a little function here basically, and what this check function is going to do is first we're going to list the current running tasks, and then we need to put in a shift / character. I'm not sure what this thing's called, to be honest with you. It's just the kind of separator character. And then we need to write find /I and then Chrome in quotation marks. Next up, we want to say if error level is 1, open brace, and then I'm going to start a new line and tab to indent. We're going to write here start chrome.exe. So if error level returns 1, that means that the task list find function could not find the Chrome process. So we want to start the Chrome process. But we don't want to just start Chrome and go to our homepage. We want to open up the TradingView charts. So I'm going to bring up Chrome here. It doesn't matter which chart layout that you load, because AutoView detects the alerts regardless of what layout you're on. So I'm just going to copy the one that I'm using right now to test this script, which is my hammers and stars layout. As long as it's a chart, this will work perfectly fine. So just make sure to copy the URL of a chart layout and then minimize Chrome and paste that in here. So this line of code here will start Google Chrome and load up this web page. The next line of code we want to write here is CLS. That just clears the screen of any text in the command prompt. And then we want to write here echo. And you could write anything here. This is just for feedback to you to know that the monitor just relaunched Chrome. I'm just going to write here danger Will Robinson starting Chrome. Just a quick shout out to any of you who recognize this obscure sci-fi reference. And I'm going to close this brace here, and then we need to write else with a capital E, then open a new bracket or brace, parentheses, whatever you want to call it. And then we're going to write CLS to clear the screen, and then a new line, and then we're going to write echo, and then we're going to echo or print to the command prompt, everything is fine. And then I'm going to close off that parentheses or bracket, start a new line, and just write timeout 60. So this will wait 60 seconds before running this entire script again. But to make sure that we loop this check function, all of this code we just wrote here, we need to write at the very end of the batch file, go to check. Whoops, misspelled it. Go to check. So every time this file runs, it will get to the end of the file and then go back to the start of the file, and it will just continue looping over and over and over again indefinitely. And so this will ensure that we always have Chrome open if we detect that it's not open. So now we need to save this file. So just go File, Save As. We'll just save this to the desktop. And before we save this file, make sure to come down to Save As File Type. Click on that drop-down box and click All Files. And now we want to save this text file as a batch file or a bat.bat file. It doesn't matter what you call it. I'm going to call mine monitor.bat, B-A-T. and then click save. You'll see the file pop up here on the desktop. We can now close this notepad, open up the Windows button again and type in run, R-U-N, hit enter. And then we want to write in here, I've already written it out because I've accessed this before, but we want to write shell common space startup. And this will open up the startup folder for this Windows server, and whatever files we put into this folder will always run when the server boots up. So hit enter or click OK. We want to drag our monitor file over to this folder. Drop the file in there, and then if you want to test to make sure it's working, open up Chrome and close the window, and then just double click on this file and we'll see what happens. And there we go, it's working perfectly fine. It just said Danger Will Robinson, starting Chrome. Now we'll wait 60 seconds. It will check if Chrome is still open. If it's not, it will attempt to open it again. If it is, then nothing will happen. So I'll leave this open for a moment and I'll skip ahead to show you what that looks like. There we go. You can see it says everything is fine. So it detected that Chrome is still running and it didn't have to do anything. So now to confirm it works, let's close Chrome again and just wait for this timer to run out. We can close this folder now as well. Here we go, and it's detected that Chrome wasn't open and it's opened it back up. So everything's working perfectly. The final test to make sure this is working how we want it to is to just restart your server. So click on the Windows button, click the power button when it loads, and just hit restart. And it'll prompt you for a reason to restart the server. Just click continue and you'll be logged out. And when it boots up, just log back in and check the batch file is doing its thing. So I'm reconnecting now to see if this worked. Now after restarting your server, you need to log back in order for everything to run. The server will not automatically log itself back in. So keep that in mind. There's our monitor batch file starting up with Windows. It has detected Chrome isn't running and it's launching it. Perfect. Everything is working how we want it to. You can now leave this running, hit the X button on your remote desktop connection to your virtual private server, and you shouldn't need to check back on it very frequently. It's probably worth checking on it every couple of days just in case something's gone wrong or it's turned itself off or restarted and you need to log back in. But for the most part, you should get away with only having to check on this every weekend, or if you notice that it's not placing trades that it should be, obviously. So I'm going to close out of this session now and just leave it running for the next week or two. So that's the end of today's demonstration. We're pretty much set up. If you followed all the steps note for note, then you should be ready to start auto trading through AutoView. All you need to do is set up your alerts. You can do this on this virtual server, or you can minimize this virtual server, load up your charts on your home computer. And if you've got a script that's automatically trading, for example, this hammers and shooting stars script that we wrote in a previous lesson, all you need to do now is come up to the alert button, select the script that contains your AutoView automation code, select alert function calls only, and then create your alert. And now whenever an alert is triggered, so long as your web server is running and you've logged into your TradingView account and you've connected AutoView to Oanda, then your trades will automatically execute. And to prove that is the case, I'm going to log in to my demo account here. I'm going to choose the correct account ID here. In my case, it's 005 is the account ID that I connected AutoView to. I'm going to click allow. And now here we are logged in. Now I'm going to swap over to my virtual server. So for this, I'm going to load up a different chart. And let's just initialize a trade on New Zealand yen here. So to do that, I'm just going to right click just slightly above price action here. I'm going to click add alert. And then I'm going to type out an alert syntax that should enter a market order on this pair if the conditions are met. And the conditions are going to be if price is less than where we're setting our alert, which is guaranteed to happen if price stays where it is right now by the time I'm done setting this alert. I might set it even a little bit higher. If this condition is met, then we want to trigger an alert to AutoView. I'm going to turn off all of these because we don't need them. And then I'm going to change this to say E equals Oanda practice. B or book is going to be long. The symbol is going to be NZD/JPY. The order type is going to be a market order. My fixed stop loss price is going to be 78.9. Let's keep it simple. And our fixed take profit is going to be 79.1. So now when I click create on this alert, because price action is below 79.1 or less than, this alert should automatically trigger immediately whenever price moves, and we should enter a trade on our demo account on this web server. So to prove that is the case, I'm going to minimize this. I'm going to close this browser so that this auto view extension isn't running. And then I'm going to go back to my virtual server and click create. Let's wait and see what happens. There we go. We've entered long at market based on our auto view alert over here on our virtual server. So hopefully you found this video interesting. I know it was a slower paced video that didn't include any coding, but now that we've got this set up, you can run this Amazon web server for free for up to a year, I believe, and it will run 24/7. Now in a future lesson, I will cover how to run MetaTrader expert advisors on this virtual server, but I'll leave today's video here because that will add at least another 20 minutes or half hour onto this video, and this video is already long enough. So we'll leave it there. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you found this interesting. I hope those of you who need this service can successfully get it set up and running. Remember that it's completely free, at least for the first year, so you have nothing to lose by playing around with this if you're interested. Before we wrap up this video, I want to just cover a couple of housekeeping things in relation to AWS, such as what pricing looks like if you do exceed your 12-month free trial, and what your options are if you want to continue using the service and pay for it. So here is my current billing and cost management dashboard. You can see down here what my usage has been over the past 3 days. I've used 3.3% of my storage. I've used 3.3% of my hours for this month, and I've used 0.78% of my data bandwidth or available internet usage. So there are approximately 730 hours in a month, and we have 750 hours for free per month. And according to this table, there are no months that have more than 744 hours. So unless something radical changes with our time-space reality, I think we'll be safe for our hourly quota each month. Unless you're copying a lot of files over to your private server, we are never going to exceed 15 gig per month by just running our charts. If, however, you're worried about hidden costs, if something goes horribly wrong with your virtual server and it downloads a massive file or something like that, you scroll up here to budgets and click on that. Then click on create a budget up here. Leave it set on cost budget and click set your budget. Name this budget whatever you want. I'm going to call mine auto view. Leave it on monthly, leave it on recurring budget, and specify your monthly budget. So I'm just going to put $1 in here. You can leave everything else here as it is and click configure thresholds. I'm going to set my alert threshold to 1% of our budgeted amount. So as soon as we start incurring even a single cent worth of a fee for this service, we'll be notified. And then put in your email address here. I'm just going to put in the email for my company and then click confirm budget and then click done. And now you'll be alerted by email as soon as this virtual private server starts racking up any fee whatsoever, which should never happen if you followed the steps in today's video and you use your virtual private server only for what I showed you today. Now, if something does go wrong with your server and it starts racking up a cost, or you simply just want to shut the thing down or modify something or re-download the remote desktop connection application, just go to aws.amazon.com like we did at the start of the video. Click on my account, make sure you've logged in, and click on AWS Management Console. Once you're here, just click on this recently visited service if it's showing up on your AWS services homepage, or come up here to services, click on that, and just click EC2 under compute. Once you're here, come and click on the instances link over here on the left. Click on that. Here is your instance, your virtual private server. If you need to disable it and stop it from running, just right click on it and click stop instance. Now, if you do stop this instance and you start it again, you will need to re-download the remote desktop application to connect to it, because your instance could potentially be booted up on a different server with a different address. All your files and stuff will still be there, but just keep that in mind. Your IP address can change when you restart the instance. And if something goes wrong while you're setting up your instance and you just want to wipe the whole thing and start again, you can also terminate the instance and then just create a new one. Follow the steps from earlier in the video and just create a whole new instance. All right, so it's important to mention that if you do use your free tier AWS service for the full 12 months and you still want to keep your private server going, you can purchase purchase access to a private server for an entire year for around $100 US, which when you consider the cost of buying your own dedicated computer, your electricity cost, your internet usage, all of that, potential issues that could happen with the computer, having to replace parts, etc. It's a pretty cheap way to run a dedicated virtual server, or essentially rent a computer. To rent the equivalent computer we're using today in today's video, which is one of their more basic computers, but as you can see today, even though it's slow, it gets the job done. If you want to rent one of these for a year, simply look over here at the instances drop-down menu, and we want to click on reserved instances. So click on that, and then we want to click on purchase reserved instances. Don't worry, we're not buying anything today. I'm just going to show you what this costs. So the platform we want to select is Windows. The instance type we want to select is T2 Micro, which is what we were using in today's video. The tenancy we want to leave as default. If you set this to dedicated, you get your own dedicated hardware that isn't shared with other people's virtual servers. It really doesn't matter for what we're doing, and it's cheaper to select default. Term is up to you. You could do 1 to 12 months. I'm going to show you what it would cost to rent one for a full year. Offering class, I would recommend setting to standard because it's a lot cheaper. Our payment option is up to you. If you select no upfront, then you pay an hourly rate. So if I click search now, here are our options. If we rent one for 12 months, then we pay a hourly rate of 1.2 cents, and you can basically pay your bill as you go. It is slightly cheaper, however, to select all upfront, or you could do partial upfront. I'm just going to show you no upfront and all upfront. If we select all upfront and search, you can see that our upfront cost is $99 US, and our effective rate is 1.1 cents per hour. Or if we get a 3-year deal, it's $234. I would probably recommend going with a 1-year deal because you never know what might happen with your trading. You may find a better way to auto trade by the time your first year is up, or your second year in this case, since we'll be able to use this for a full year for free upfront. Anyway, I just thought I'd better mention that in this video for those of you who do end up using this service for over 12 months. And that'll pretty much do it for the housekeeping part of today's video. I think that's all you really need to know in order to get started with this. And of course, if you run into any issues, just contact the Amazon support. Don't send me an email because I won't have time to help you with this sort of thing. But the Amazon support team should be there for you if you run into any technical difficulties. Thanks for watching, everyone. I'm going to go and manage my crypto positions now since we're having a volatile day, and I'll see you in the next lesson. Take care and best of luck with your trading.